lesson 25. We keep reading from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 1. After the introduction last week, laying down the foundation of the circumstances which are most beneficial for your practice to be successful, we have a look at some asanas today, suggested by the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So we are chapter 1. Sutra 18. In which Svatmarama says, I proceed to describe some of the asanas accepted by the sages as Vasistha and yogins such as Machendra. Svatmarama is introducing here a set of exercises deemed to be outstanding. Among the many asanas that exist, he says, he doesn't say, I think these are good exercises. He says, to draw attention, to make them special, accepted by the sages such as Vasistha and yogins such as Machendra. Machendra is not just a yogi, he was the first human being according to legend. So just like with this issue we talked about last class and the class before about God, about divinity, this is the same. You put a label on it. I mean, Machendra was not a living being. It is a symbolism. It's the first human being like Adam and Eve, like Tangun in Korean folklore. But that's a very special position, and therefore the exercises that follow are deemed to be special as well. So, Sutra 19 will describe the first of the asanas we have. Having correctly placed both soles of the feet between the thighs and the knees, one should sit balanced and straight-bodied. This is called Svastikasana. Svastikasana is what we have called Sukhasana. This pose is the meditation pose. And I think it has many different kinds of names. Svastika is an interesting name. Sukhasana, the name that we use, is also an interesting name because Sukha implies that you need to have a comfortable position in order for meditation to be possible. Because when you are in an uncomfortable position, the discomfort will disturb your meditation. But Svastika is a symbol that is identified with some very negative image, because this image has been abused by the Nazis, the Germans, in World War II. And under that umbrella, incredible atrocities have been committed. But then you walk around in Korea, or in Japan, or India for that matter, and you frequently come across the swastika. Because it is a Buddhist, originally a Buddhist, or is it Hinduist? The Buddhists use it as well. Symbol. And it's like the cross in Christianity. It has a certain meaning. I don't know exactly the meaning, it's easy to find out. Harini?
So it means the sun. It means the sun.
The sun.
This swastika means the sun.
Okay.
And the other way, the left-facing swastika. So this is the right-facing swastika. I can come there and show.
Okay. So you have one that goes this way?
Yeah, that means the moon.
Oh, I had no idea. Interesting. Interesting. Moon. Sun. Good to know.
So oftentimes it's the sun symbol that's used as a traditional Hindu symbol. Usually because sun means positivity, light, and all of that.
Yeah. So swastika is the name of this pose. Everybody's familiar with this. What you see in the drawing is that the foot goes over the calf and sticks in between the calf and the thigh. You can sit like this, but the pressure, if you really meditate, after a couple of minutes, the pressure that you create in this way will distract you. Therefore, we keep the feet and the lower legs separate. In the end, when you practice asana for a longer period of time, on a regular basis, you become stronger and more flexible, eventually enabling you to sit in the ideal meditation pose, which we will come across in the second session, which is of course Padmasana, the lotus pose. There, you put your feet on the thighs. But if you're not in a good condition, that's definitely not helpful for a good meditation. 20. Place the right ankle next to the left buttock and the left ankle next to the right buttock. This is Gomukhasana and resembles the face of a cow. So Gomukhasana is very often done wrong. So let's have a look at Gomukhasana. You see in the drawing that it is drawn correctly, but how do they do this? They do it like this, right? Miju? Cow face? Cow pose? So chase so. No, that is the cat pose, I think. Okay. This is another cow. So it's mostly done like this. But this is too easy. You could use this maybe as a meditation pose, provided that you sit straight. But the real cow pose is done like this. You create. You put your lower legs together and you keep them together while sitting down, resulting in you not actually sitting down. Because of the strain that occurs, you're floating. So it becomes a balancing pose. So it's actually a very complex pose. It's a balancing pose. And no, wait. Try again. You have to swing your leg over the other one. Then you try to bring your feet together, uneven, and then, not allowing your feet to separate, you then try to sit down. So you slowly sink into it. And then you try to stay straight. It's a balancing pose. After grabbing your balance, don't cross your lower legs. Yes, just like that. Yes? For you it's very easy. You have long and slender legs.
Yeah.
Then once you have your balance, then you join the hands behind your back. So this is just 10 times more intense and challenging than what is usually done as a cow pose, just sitting like this.
So in this position you have to meditate?
Say again?
In this position you have to meditate?
No. You have to make cow sounds. It's a marvelous pose, it really is. Would be good if you integrate. Yeah, all the poses that we come across here are either part of this course or our advanced course. Sooner or later they will be part of the schedule. Komiko-san is part of the advanced course. You can integrate it in your daily routine, into your daily routine. Okay, 21st. Place one foot firmly on the other thigh and the right thigh on the other foot. This is called Virasana. That is a very awkward description. Virasana is a hero pose in which you sit in between your ankles. So if you paid attention, this is very uncomfortable, like a cow pose. I use my thumbs as shoehorns and I push my calves out. Otherwise, it's very painful. It is important that you sit straight, of course. Like in Sukhasana, you tilt the pelvis, your back is gently concave, and your hands not on the knees but on your thighs. And this pose you can indeed use as an alternative for meditation. Throughout the years, if people were very uncomfortable in Sukhasana, I told them to sit in Vira, and you can of course sit on a cushion doing so. The only thing that is important is that you sit straight. Because the moment you slump, relax, the energy circulation is not accelerated and meditation becomes difficult. If, however, you are able to sit on the ground in Virasana, you have Supta Virasana, sleeping hero, and you lie down. Eventually you try to keep the knees together. Apart from the energetic value of this pose, this Virasana and Supta Virasana enormously strengthen the knees and the ankles. Most injuries in sports are knee and ankle injuries. Even people just walking in the street often end up hurting ankles or knees. The reason why that happens is because the ankles and the knees are rather delicate joints, complex also, that are surrounded by very powerful muscles, the thighs and the calves. So there is an imbalance between the strength of the muscles and the strength of the joints. If you do Virasana regularly, the strength of the joints becomes more and more aligned with the strength of those muscles. You will not have ankle and knee injuries easily anymore. Virasana and Supta Virasana. 22. Press the anus firmly with the ankles in opposite directions and sit well poised. This is Kurmasana according to the yogins. Kurma is a turtle. It's my favorite animal. Slow but steady. The pose is part of my daily routine, but it's not so easy, especially if you want to integrate the pose into your daily practice, you have to take time and everyday try. Sooner or later, with time, you'll be able to do it without too much obstacles, without too much effort. But in the beginning, your body just needs to adjust. You put your knees as close to your shoulders as possible. And then, as described in the text, you push your heels forward and your tailbone back. This is an extreme forward bend. You know, we have Padangusta, Padahasta, Uttan. Within a couple of weeks, we will have Paschimottanasana, which is the seated version of the forward bend. Kurmasana, because you push your heels forward, forces you into a very intense and deep forward bend. Based on Kurmasana, there are many other poses that become possible. Eventually, with your feet behind your head, 1 or 2 feet behind the head, or the firefly pose, where you basically do Kurmasana but then balancing on your hands, Tikivasana. Firefly. And when you lie down on your back and you put both your feet behind your head, you have the inverted Kurmasana. You know, when turtles are upside down, they cannot straighten themselves, they die, right? Also turtle pose. If you like a turtle, you have to be able to do it, of course. Other animal I really like is the frog. Strange, why the frog? Because it's a happy-go-lucky animal. Okay. Next one. Assuming the Padmasana, insert the hands between the thighs and the knees, planting them firmly on the ground. Rise in the air. This is Kukuttasana. Pronouncing the name of the pose is just as difficult as doing the pose. Kukuta is a what do you call it in English?
Rooster?
Yeah, rooster. So, according to the text, you start with Padmasana. And then you insert your hands. This is the easy part. And this is challenging Manipura chakra very much. So you have to do it very slowly and persist until your arm falls off. So the elbow has to come through. Elbow has to come through, and then you balance on your hands. Try. When you're pregnant, it's better not to do that. It puts a lot of strain on your abdomen. It's not important that you can do it perfectly. You notice that when I showed it to you, it takes a lot of effort. And what is important when you try is not that you succeed, but how you approach it, how you try. Just stay calm. Stay calm and controlled, and just see how far you can go. And most of all, do not get frustrated if it doesn't end up being perfect, because it's very difficult. Just play. It's very much a fire pose. Next one is a variation. Assuming the Kukutasana posture, wind the arms around the neck and lie on the back like a tortoise. It's called Uttana Kurmasana. You see the drawing there? That's why I told you that you must push your arms through until the elbows come through. Because then you can bend your arms and you can put your hands under the chin or behind the head. 25, take hold of the toes with the hands. Keep one arm stretched in front and draw the other up to the ear as if drawing a bow. This is not called Dhanurasana. There is an error here. The description is actually Akarna Dhanura. So the drawing with the text shows indeed Dhanurasana, which will come soon on our schedule also. Dhanurasana, you grab the ankles, lying on your belly, you grab the ankles and you push the feet away. We did this in kindergarten, in elementary school, as part of gym class, physical education. We call it swan pose. But what is described here is Akarna Dhanura. Remember the meaning of Akarna, or Karna Pida, ear. That is exactly what you literally do. Akarna Dhanura. Dhanura is a bow. Akarna means at the ear. So you bring your foot to your ear, emulating the movement of shooting an arrow. Hence the word Dhanura. Try it out. It's a complete exercise where you use all parts of the body. It's also a hip opener. And you really have to work. Because most people will not be able to put their foot close to their ear. So you really have to work. Try to keep both buttocks on the ground. You grab both big toes. One leg remains straight and the other you pull back. Slowly, slowly. This one is part of the advanced course also. Until now, each exercise was described with one sutra. Now, there will be more than one sutra per asana, which means it's more valuable, in a sense. 26 sutra. Place the right foot at the base of the left thigh, the left foot outside the right knee. Take hold of the right foot by the left hand and the left foot by the right hand and remain with the body turned around to the left. This is the asana described by Matchendra. Matchendra, the first human being. Fish, Matsya. We call this pose Artha Matchendra, the half Matchendra pose. You bend one leg and you put that foot, the heel, next to your buttock. Do not sit on it, both buttocks should stay on the ground. Then you put this foot here, next to your knee. Many people draw it back. Don't do that, next to the knee. Then make sure that both buttocks are on the ground and sit straight. Then you do this in 2 stages. The first stage, you embrace your knee. If it's your left knee, it's your right arm. If it's your right knee, it's your left arm. And while you do this, you're going to bend your back, so erect. Erect, and then turn, while pulling your knee towards your chest, turn as much as you can. Keep both buttocks on the ground. This is stage 1. Stage 2, you use your arm as a lever and you grab this foot. So it intensifies the torsion of the spine enormously. Other foot. It's okay. Yes. Getting there. Okay. If you feel it's easy, just increase the intensity. Straighten the spine more. Try to turn more. Use both. This arm pushes you into this torsion, but this hand also helps you to increase. Adi, put your foot next to your knee. Don't pull it back. Yeah. This one will be on the schedule also. Grab the other foot. Not the other foot. Use your arm as a lever. Yeah. No, push the knee back and you grab this foot. Grab your right foot. The right foot is on the left side.
Why is it such a conundrum to me?
Yeah, no, this pose always causes confusion.
Am I twisting the side?
Yeah, it's correct. But instead of grabbing this foot, grab this foot.
The foot that's here.
Yeah, I'm supposed to grab it.
Yeah, but from
Yeah, but
over the knee, yes.
it's funny because when we did it on the other side, you did it totally correctly.
The other side does feel different.
No. Left and right side of the brain are different also. 27, this Machendrasana, which increases appetite by fanning the gastric fire, is a weapon that destroys all the terrible diseases of the body. With daily practice, it arouses the Kundalini and makes the moon steady in men. This is interesting. In the first sentence, between square brackets, they wrote, which increases appetite by. You can erase that. As I explained last week, gastric fire is not necessarily digestion, although it is related. Gastric fire is the phenomenon of the 3 lower chakras becoming very energetic, leading indeed to a very efficient digestion, a regular stool, etc. So it is related to digestion, but it's much, much more than digestion. It is the vital energy that fuels everything, including, of course, the crown chakra. And it is this phenomenon of those 3 chakras energizing that leads eventually to the Kundalini phenomenon, with energy rising up, fueling the higher chakras. So it's when gastric fire is mentioned, it's much more than digestion. It destroys all the terrible diseases of the body. Diseases, without exception, are all related to energy. There is either a distortion in the energy circulation, or there is a lack of energy. And it can be a lack of Shiva energy, can be a lack of Shakti energy, but it can also be an overall lack of energy, both lacking. this sutra tells us that this is actually a very therapeutic exercise, very powerful exercise, if done regularly. Yoga is like traditional medicine. Traditional medicine only works if you do it every day, if you take it every day. In opposite to modern medicine, which is chemical and much more deep, interfering into the functioning of the body parts. But it is the very reason why yoga is always likened to healing. Because yoga is healing. There is no such thing as healing yoga. Any yoga that you do is healing by default. It improves the levels of energy, then it balances those energies, it accelerates the circulation of energy, and with that, over time, all small and bigger diseases will gradually heal. Naturally, you will become healthier. Some poses, of course, have a deeper impact than others, but all asana basically leads to that healing effect. But Chandrasana apparently has a very powerful effect. Why? Because you are twisting the spine from the tailbone all the way up to the base of the skull, stimulating all the chakras along the way. And because you're sitting on your tailbone with a straight back, you reinforce that process. You can try this as an experiment. When you're upset, emotional, angry, in any form, not calm, try Artama Chandrasana. You will see that in an instant, your energy settles down, you become calm, and you rise above your emotion. Amazing. Sadly, it's the last thing that you think of when you're upset. But it really works. I've tried it out. Very powerful. When you're upset, being upset is an emotion, is energy. Energy out of whack. Sit down, Atha Machendrasana, close your eyes, and you immediately become calm. Why? Because you directly stimulate all the chakras leading to energy rising up. Emotions are below the diaphragm. Calm, rationality is on higher levels, in the higher chakras. You literally rise above your emotion. And with that, the emotion fades away. And you will find a solution to your, whatever it is that upset you. It arouses the Kundalini. I mentioned Kundalini already. And why? And it makes the moon steady in men. That is very interesting. It is also the reason why I sometimes say that men need yoga more than women. For me, personally, I find it difficult to communicate with men, generally. Because men are very often surrounded by attention that I don't like. That is nature. Dogs, when they are not castrated, male dogs, they have the same kind of characteristic. They want to conquer, they want to hunt, they want to protect. Human men, we have kind of civilized, but we still have this characteristic. So, making the moon steady in man is pouring water on the fire of those characteristics that men possess. Men and women, since the dawning of mankind, have different roles. Women are usually responsible for harmony, for care. They use their heart naturally without yoga. Men are responsible for providing food. And before agriculture, that meant hunting, sometimes for days or weeks, killing, but also protecting the community, protecting the tribe from danger, from animals and other tribes and what have you. So we come a long way to kind of civilize men. But you can see, where I come from in the Netherlands, sport clubs are all subsidized, very cheap. I remember when I was a member of a track and field club, where I went 3 times a week, twice a week, all year round. It cost only 100 guilders, which now is like 50 euros for a whole year. Why is this important? Especially for men. They need sports. Also to steady the moon, like yoga does. To keep them off the street and do naughty things, which eventually will lead to worse naughty things, violence and what have you. So, if you look at ancient times, when civilization started to evolve, we were always at war. When we were in peace, we organized games. That is where the Olympic Games come from. Olympic Games have a purpose of diplomacy, but also to keep men busy when they are not at war. Because when they come back from the war and there is nothing to do for them, they engage in violence and what have you. All kinds of things that are destructive for society as a whole. That is where the origin of organized sports comes from, if you look at it. Good. 28th Sutra. Stretch out both the legs on the ground without bending them. And having taken hold of the toes of the feet with the hands, place the forehead upon the knees and rest thus. This is Paschimottanasana. This description is a little bit, it's not right. It is this kind of description that leads people to focus on bending their back and putting their head on their knees, which is what the text says. Paschimottanasana is especially valuable when you don't do that. When you try to, like in the turtle pose, instead of bending the back, you try to make the back hollow. And you can eventually, if you're flexible, you can eventually bend, but instead of trying to put your head on your knees, try to visualize putting your head beyond your feet instead. Because this exercise is about the hips. Tilting the pelvis is incredibly powerful. It's the basis of your existence, where Muladhara chakra is located. Bending the back doesn't have any positive effect. What it does is it takes away from the effect where it's supposed to be, in the hips. So push the belly forward. Try to start off with a hollow back. Even if eventually you do bend the back, do it while extending. Visualize putting your head beyond your toes, beyond your feet. So this is Paschimottanasana is in many versions, and it starts with the standing versions. Padangusta, Padahasta, Uttam. Then you have Paschimottanasana seated. Then you have Ubaya Padangusta, where you grab the toes and you balance on your sitting bones. It becomes more complex, and it combines the pose with an element of balancing, which directly stimulates the higher chakra of the physical body, the throat chakra. So you grab the big toes, and then you grab the ankles and you go to Paschimottanasana. Urdhva Paschimottanasana maybe? It will be at the end of this course on the schedule. And the final one, and therefore allegedly the most advanced one, is lying down on the back, which seems very easy. But you're supposed to keep your hips down, not end up like this. You have to keep your back flat while engaging in Paschimottanasana. So there are like 7 different kind of versions of a forward bend, starting with standing. Seemingly a very simple pose, 29 Sutra says, this most excellent of all asanas, Paschimottanasana, makes the energy flow through Sushumna, stimulates the gastric fire, makes the loins lean and removes all diseases of men. Again, a reference to typical man characteristics. Instinct to fight, to conquer, aggression. Gastric fire is mentioned again. But simple as this pose is, it makes the energy flow through Sushumna, which is the Kundalini effect, energy rising from the bottom up, fueling the higher chakras. So, seemingly very simple pose with very powerful effect. It is important that when you do this, that you do this in the traditional yoga way. You take on the pose and you don't move. Stay in the pose 60 seconds, 1.5 minutes. That's when it really starts to work. What people often do when they stretch is they bounce. Or they bend their back passively. Doesn't work. It becomes really powerful if you do it as was designed thousands of years ago. 30. Plant the hands firmly on the ground and support on the elbows the sides of the navel. The body raised in elevated posture in the air like a rod. This position they call Mayurasana. Mayurasana, you know. We've introduced that as a challenge, as a play also. It's a very challenging pose, very interesting pose. If you can do it, you impress not only other people, but also yourself. Simply being able to do this. And in the end, everybody can do it. But if you find it very difficult, you need to do it on a regular basis, and you will see it will come naturally, if only you try. Very powerful Manipura Chakra pose. 31st Sutra says about this, Mayurasana cures quickly all diseases, like gulma, udara, dropsy and other stomach diseases, etc., and overcomes the imbalance of the humors, namely Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. It reduces to ashes all food indiscriminately taken, kindles the gastric fire, and causes to be digested even the Kalakuta, a terrible poison. It is clear that this huge pressure on your abdomen, staying steady in Manipura, in Mayurasana, is incredibly energizing. All the fire organs, which are all related to digestion. It even causes to be digested the Kalakuta, a terrible poison. To demonstrate this, there are indeed yogis, traditional yogis, who ingest poison that would for normal people be lethal, only to show that those texts are correct, and it shows that they are dedicated yogis. So they don't do it to show off, to make a spectacle, but it is an establishment of their credentials, so to speak. It reduces to ashes all food indiscriminately taken. This is very applicable in the time that we live in. What is food indiscriminately taken? That is food that is not so beneficial. Junk food. The name junk food in itself already says it all. Food that is full of chemicals, processed foods. It's not an excuse to eat those kind of foods when you do Mayurasana on a regular basis, but it is an indication that while normally the digestion and your health is affected or seriously affected by lousy food, by processed food, if you do Mayurasana regularly, it will affect you at least less than it normally would. (32) is your favorite pose. Lying on the back on the ground at full length like a corpse is Shavasana. Shavasana removes fatigue caused by the other asanas and induces repose of mind. After a hard workout, a yoga session, Savasana is like a reset button, but very tricky. Yoga practice leads to sattva, which you feel. That is that wonderful feeling that you are left with when you're done, or even you are left with after each individual asana, after your meditation. But when you are in Savasana, it's very tempting to stay in Savasana. Not 1 minute, but 10 minutes or 15 minutes. You doze off if you stay too long, because it's so nice, so comfortable. The problem is, all the work that you did to come to sattva is out of the window. You destroy that wonderful condition. So when you do savasana after your yoga practice, don't stay longer than a minute or 2. And then force yourself to get up and go about your next goal, your next task. I've tried it out myself. I've had a period where I was busy and I would practice yoga, and I really enjoyed just lying in savasana, even falling asleep, and really regretting it when waking up again, getting up again. Okay, that's it for now. After the break, after asana meditation, the break, we will read another section of asana, very special asanas. Okay, let's have a short break.